All right, so now we got the YouTube, so we're not feeling as pressured to talk super duper fast and run through it super quick. So these videos can be a little bit longer, so that's really nice. Um, Appreciate you guys for always, trusting the process and all that, and giving a listen to the stuff I got to say about this market. All right, so we discussed earlier, we had crazy market conditions this week, yada, yada, yada. We had our setup here form, and, the reason why it worked, and the reason for this strategy is so that we have profit, and it's with minimum risk, and it's at the best times, right? So I I have these set rules in this strategy with the go back for a reason, because you're looking for the best setups for the best probable times. That's why we do it in the sessions. And there's certain times where it may show up outside of the session, and it's just, same thing I'm saying here. Like, what are you willing to risk? Are you willing to risk your funded account or that loss, or if not, because there will be times where you decide to break your rule and enter outside of a session, and you'll take a loss on that trade, and then you're screwed to where you can't even trade this next session, and then you'll see a setup form there, and you'll be like, and you'll get pissed, and then you'll get some FOMO, and then you'll try to trade again, and then you take another loss, right? So that's how like a snowball effect plays out. That's why we got to stick to our rules. So profit, right? Boom, we're good. We're feeling good going into London, right? Necessarily you may not trade here. You'll just end the night on a win, but we're going into London. What do we have happening here, right? So I want to go over this right here. A part of the strategy, right? There's certain tweaks and stuff like that I'm learning as we go. You want to see, that first reaction, and then you want to see that reaction get swept. You want to see that first reaction be a 5-minute reaction. You don't want to see it only be a 1-minute reaction, meaning if you look here, right, so let's get our approach. We're on 81 because we're in London. We have price accumulating at equilibrium. We're on this huge bullish run. We're looking to target this high or to go higher, right? So what does price, need to do? We got to double check the higher time frames. You guys can't get lost in the lower time frames during Asia and London. We got this 15-minute fair value gap down here that needs to get filled. If we look on the 1 minute and we have our bullish bias at this equilibrium, and we're on the 27, you're looking at probably wanting to get entered over here somehow with this entry here, because you have that first reaction, you have that reaction get swept, and then you have price come down and hit it, and you may think that this is just a bigger move. No, you gotta wait and you gotta see what price has got to do first, right? So we had that 15-minute fair value gap. We gotta wait for that. We're still in London. We're still all right. You get this, formation here. You have these rules, and we get left behind. What are you willing to risk, right? We get an entry later on. There it go. You get an entry later on right here in this inverse fair value gap, Reaper fair value gap, whatever you want to call it. Right there, right? You're going to see this formation form, right? You're going to see it in your head, and you're going to think that you got left behind, right? Because you got this paired perfect right here. You're like, oh yeah, we're going to fill this. You're going to have your order sitting right here waiting all damn day for it. And then the moment that it starts taking off and getting up here, you're going to be thinking, oh man, like I missed my move. And this is where you have to, like I said, what are you willing to risk? Because this is a B. This is probably the worst setup. This is the ones that you don't want to take. B plus, you're risking it a lot. A plus setup is the best kind of setup. At A, higher probability, so on and so forth. B meaning the worst. This right here, you're gonna be breaking rules. Just because we get the perfection and everything and all our reactions that we want, not the best setup. And you're at the end of London, so it wouldn't be a good take there. So let's keep rolling forward. This next one is I want to relate back to kind of like the aspect of like tweaking certain things with it and what are you willing to risk. I stick to only the inverse fair value gap and the fair value gap paired perfect. But there were times throughout this week where there would be an order block or a rejection block paired perfect, and I wouldn't take the entry just because, I didn't trust it. It wasn't the strategy, and it would plan out just as if, it was an inverse fair value gap or fair value gap. But I want to relate back to the equilibrium strategy. I completely erased it off the discourse, so no more confusion. But the confusion there was the constant, different PD arrays. Is that at EQ you were waiting for fair value gap, inverse fair value gap, order block, rejection block. You're waiting for all these things, and you have so many entries showing, and then you end up losing. So my advice to you is choose one. I'm sticking with only the inverse fair value gap and fair value gap. If you see an order block paired, or break of or market structure shift or change the state of delivery, if you see that paired, like, stick with that. Only enter on those. If you see rejection block or order block, only stick with that. But for me, I'm only sticking with the inverse fair value gap, and you'll see what I mean right here. So let's go to, we're in New York. We're coming up to equilibrium. This is what we're looking to target. What do we use? Our 81 to sling this up there. We are waiting for our reaction, right? We want to see our, we're checking our higher time frames, making sure we're getting everything checked. We have our reaction here. We have our first reaction on the 15. We got the 15 minute coming down and sweeping it. This is also a good sign. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's in the same area, right? This is a big move. The market's volatile. And this is also another reason why I kind of stay away from New York AM, because it's just so crazy. Like, you're going to feel like this is just wild, So you get our first reaction in the area. We sweep it. Now we're looking for a zone paired perfect. What are we looking for? We got, where was I? think it was on the 2 minute. Yep, 2 minute. We got the 2 minute rejection block paired to the tick right here, right? This is what I was meaning by, choose what you want. Choose, what are you willing to risk right here? Me, I would not take this just because I'm not banking on this rejection block just because I just wouldn't. But you get tapped in, and we run straight to TP. So you see it there. It's in the session. It's what you're looking for. It's New York AM. It's fast. It's moving a little bit more, I guess you would say, gritty, I guess. But, we don't get anything on the 1 minute pair. You got an order block. That's about it. Like I said. CE's almost paired with that, so you could have went there. But you see what I'm trying to say there. It's up to you on what you want to take. I would only have taken an inverse fair value gap or fair value gap, and I didn't get that shown, so I'm not going to take it. But you could have took a trade here for it. All right, moving forward. Remember, our end goal is that we are extremely bullish, and we are trying to go towards this 2187 high up here. If you did not see the forecast video, go check that one out. So, New York PM, there was no setup, which is okay. You just sit out of it. All good, not much you can worry about. Let's go to 243. If you wanted to target the high, you would have had no entry because we don't get a reaction or a sweep paired up with any of this, so we got no setup. And even back here, there's nothing, and it's out of our session, so we're not, it's not out of our session, but you got no setup there. So, no trade New York PM there. But, you could have Found something, maybe. Could have found something in there, hopped on one of these fair value gaps, but nothing to work with the gold back, right? This is just our rules and the strategy. Now we got to go to Asia. Asia, here we go, right? So I want to go over this right here because this happened to me. This is what I did this. I took a loss here and then made up for my loss after. But, you know, we want to avoid these losses, right? So we were in this accumulation here. I thought that, let me get to the gold back to show you. Obviously, we were here to target the equilibrium. I was looking to go lower, fill these imbalances down here that were yet to get filled in the 5-minute. And I believe there's a 15-minute as well. Yeah, we're in the middle of this right here. We're touching into here for an inverse. I was targeting lower. And price decided to accumulate a lot more than I expected. So you will have this happen. And I took this entry. I'm sure a lot of people would have too, with the knowledge of if you were approaching the market with the strategy. So what do we get right here? That's right here's where I got entered in. So we have a inverse fair value gap, almost pair perfect on the 5-minute right here, right? And you see that, right? Almost pair perfect. Not pair perfect, but almost. But we had this level up here. Oh, no, I'm tripping. I got entered right here. Right here, because the perfection, right? We did see perfection. This is, this is why I was saying, this is where you take a loss. Happens. Or you wait out a little bit longer. Maybe you're lucky you were busy during this time. You don't get entered in. But we get entered in on that 5-minute inverse fair value gap that forms. And we get stopped out because I always put my stop at the relative high or the last high or the last low, depending on what your trade is, just to, save yourself the profit. And if it goes any higher than that, then I would just do 10 points. But right here is where we get stopped out on the retracement back into the inverse fair value gap up here, right? And the reasoning why I put my order here is because it's paired perfect there, and we are looking for the minimum risk, right? That's our minimum risk. We were to enter down here, that's a lot bigger stop loss and a lot more profit you'll lose. So I took a loss there, and then if we would have waited for a more of an expansion move after this accumulation, which happened right here, we would have got, it's insane how perfection, this is, look at this. Where's it at? Where is my go back level? Fair value gap, the tiniest fair value gap. Paired perfect. What do we get? A perfect setup. And what do we get? TP. Come on. It's taking a second. TP. Right? And if we trail our stop, here. Good. 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 You could have wrote it out here just because you're at equilibrium, maybe. But I would have left it here just because you had the fair value gap there. Leave that there. Boom. 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 All the way down. Next high. Doesn't get another one, so we get retraced back up into here. Boom. And then straight to TP. That's what you want to see. If you're patient enough, it pays, right? It sucks we had you had the 1.11 up there perfect, but we got stopped out. So what? And the rule is to wait till the next session, but it's up to you on what you would have done. I, was a little bit aggressive and decided to take this trade though.